Hello there. Welcome back to the channel. It's a Heart Like Esther's. Um, this is another story time, continuation. Now I'm in like the heart of upstate New York and just in survival mode through, facing challenges of, witchcraft attacks. And like heavy warfare. And just trying to push my way through and remain above the surface. And so before I get started, I just wanted to say, I think it was the last video, or maybe the one before, and I was just chiming in a little bit about, you know, um, the battle with warfare and the marine kingdom and your dream state, how these demons try to trick you into coming into agreements and covenants. And a lot of us, we're unaware of that and we just brush it off as a weird dream or, just like a dead relative just coming, to visit or like reminding you of something in your dreams. And yeah, it's much more than that. It's very spiritual. So I just wanted to say there's a young man, the Watchman of God. He is very knowledgeable about these things. So, if you feel led to check out his channel, like he really knows a lot about this stuff. And along with a lot of people, I was mentioning too on one another video how God uses us, in a unique way. We may be talking about some of the similar things regarding like witchcraft. Some of us are anointed, for ministries to preach the word and teach the word. Some of us are just here to share our experiences with, things of the spiritual realm and, the powers of darkness. And like I said, each story, from individuals are very unique. But I just find there's a few people that I like really dig their messages, like A Call by Grace, um, which is, she has great teachings and knowledge of the word. And there's this young lady, the Transparent Ministries. And I can't think of this other young lady. She's very knowledgeable about interpretations with dreams. Something lantern. I can't remember. Oh my God. Blooming lantern. Yeah. So yeah, check him out. And this other brother, he's like a scribe. Um, his words be really timely and on point. Uh, Get Right with God podcast, and just wanted to shout them out. And I don't really get much traction on my videos. I put them out as I'm led to, but yeah, you may want to check them out because I find that they're, you know, all of their channels, they're different, but they have a little bit of something that, like, food for thought for me, So I just wanted to like put that out there. And then I like acknowledging, like Call by Grace, she has a really good following. And so does Get Right with God podcast. But I always like to acknowledge and try to support the smaller channels that's not getting a lot of traction. We got to support each other. So anyway, I want to just continue from where I started with my journey. That little short period of time being in Miami, and just things just drastically fell apart. Like in an instant. And so now I'm upstate and I'm at this shelter, and like the staff there were very friendly. And this is like my first experiences with like shelters, but I would never have imagined that I would be going through anything like this, but it taught me a lot along the way. And yeah, I didn't have any pride. I was just trying to, um, keep my sanity for one, because all the witchcraft attacks were trying to keep me, like, to get me to go insane and lose my mind, and while losing it all. And I was just, trying to keep a safe haven so that I can collect my thoughts. So yeah, so I arrived in Schenectady, upstate New York, and like the staff, they were very friendly. Most of the women there were friendly too. I was assigned a room on the second floor of this three-story brownstone, which was called the Salvation Army, but a shelter for women. And like the room came furnished, um, mattresses still in plastic. It had the whole little suit: the bed, dresser, nightstand, little fan, closet. Each door had a number. My number was 7, room number 7. We had our key. When you leave the building, you just have to leave your key, because some people don't return and then they have to call a locksmith all, again. It's heavy monitored. They had cameras, where they should be, but yeah, there were a total of 7 rooms on the floor, and a bathroom on each floor. They had like the stalls set up, like, if you're in a like Walmart or restroom, those type of stalls, like 2 of them, 2 toilets in each bathroom, and like the standing showers, which reminded me of like phone booth. They were very narrow and like width. And so it was okay with me. I was just happy that I can take a shower. But yeah, you couldn't bend over or anything like that, trying to do anything fancy, like washing your feet or, So anyway, there was, a schedule on the door, and it had chores. Every number each day have a chore, a task, a assigned task, which might include like mopping, cleaning the shower, mopping the hallways. And each person, one person didn't have to do, all of these things, all of these tasks. It's just one person was assigned, to each task. So, and I wanted to highlight that New York State, if anyone who's listening to my um, videos and they may be in some need of help and they're in that surrounding area, New York State is a right to shelter state. And, New York is especially in the city, is the hub of business. It's a lot of resources there. So, yeah, they will never turn you away. And I just needed to say that because my experience searching for homeless shelters in Miami, I found that many would just turn me away without even asking me any real questions about my situation or my circumstances, just for no reason at all. And it seemed that, you know, they just didn't want me there. I don't know if it was just me or anybody, but I don't know. I you know, my ID did, or my driver's license reflected, another state, which was the state of Georgia, because I had to change those over when I got to Georgia from New York. But I also encountered a lot of prejudice, particularly from like the Hispanic community, which is like predominant in Florida. I've met some really nice Latin people, but the majority wasn't so nice. And yeah, they often make their dislike for Black individuals very clear. So I was just wondering what it would be like to live in that state, just from my observation for the short time that I was there, because I visit New York, Miami so many times, but as a tourist, I was just there for events or just to visit, friends there. So when I was in Atlanta, which is where I'm originally from, I think I mentioned that before. I've just been in New York for like over 30 years, and New York is home for me because I came to New York when it was like when I was very young. I was a young adult, like, maybe 20, 19, 20, something like that. And so, yeah, when I was in Atlanta, I didn't think about going to a shelter because I was still okay. I had a little bit of money. I was working. Although I was job hopping because of, the witchcraft, these people, like they were sending these type of spirits that just kept people around me coming against me. I would always, um, be met with like resistance or some sort of sabotage. I didn't understand it. I just knew something wasn't right. But I was just always, once that would happen, I would focus on finding another job, and always believe things would be okay. Although there are shelters available in Georgia, I didn't know much about them. But like I worked in like government and in the city of Atlanta, City Hall to be exact. And I remember during that time working closely with certain departments that regarding like subsidized housing and government benefits. I remember it was like they were stopping it, like putting it at a halt, like no longer offering it, like Section A, things of that nature. Especially if you didn't have children, it's really tough. It's a tough situation to be in out there. But I never thought that I would have to be in such a situation. I don't have any kids. I have one son. He's not a kid, he's an adult. and you have to hope and pray that you get a call back from like the Catholic churches. It seems like it's only the Catholic churches and the local charities there in Atlanta, that you reach out to for help. And it's dependent on your zip code because so many people need assistance regularly there. It's not all what it's cracked up to be. It's a beautiful state. But you got to really have the pay there is terrible. Let me just add that. But simply living in Atlanta is just not enough. You need a solid plan to ensure you have a steady income. So in Georgia, the tenant rights are quite limited to none at all. If the rent is not paid, you typically have like 30 days or less to pack your belongings and move out, particularly before the sheriff arrives with a crew to evict you. I've seen it more than once, and I never understood. Like, if you know that you may have to make a move, you can't come up with the money, you don't lost your job, you should just get your stuff out. At least get all your stuff out. And if you don't have anywhere to go, then get an air mattress and like blankets and just have that, so you don't have to worry on that last day you can make your move. But after the late fees accumulate, you will receive a notice. And then you'll have a court date, which can take anywhere from 10 to 15 days. It seems really fast, like they be ready to get you out. And depending on your communication and your relationship with your landlord or your property managers. But when I left that last apartment, in my situation, I wanted to avoid having any negative marks on my rental history. So I had always paid my rent on time and sometimes, you know, um, ahead of time. But the last, I think it was 4 months, I just renewed my lease. So I was going into my second year there. And before I had to pack up and leave, I had a good relationship with the property team, the management team there. which led them to offer me an alternative agreement. They proposed that I could pay a smaller amount over a set period of time and agree to vacate the property by a certain date. And that's what I did. But unfortunately, because of my situation and lack of funds, I was unable to fulfill my end of that bargain and fell behind due to all the obstacles attributed from, to witchcraft and the black magic that was, cast against me. So despite these challenges, as I sat in this new room at the homeless shelter, I felt a sense of gratitude. And this shelter, it didn't even seem like it was a shelter. It seemed like a rooming house. It wasn't that bad, I just realized that God was always providing for me regardless of the circumstances or the forces that were, the negative forces that were working against me and my son at that time because they started attacking him as well. I understood that, he was allowing me to go through these experiences for his glory and to use it as my testimony to help others who might find themselves in a similar situation. So now I'm staying in this shelter. One thing I didn't like about it was that they changed the rules. You couldn't no longer bring food. This room, like in your room, and this room was put in place like I think a month before I arrived, and due to cleanliness concerns, because although it was an older brownstone on the outside, they had just newly renovated it, and they wanted to avoid attracting mice or insects, and I can dig that. I understood, that everyone is not tidy, and they serve 3 meals a day and had designated area for snacks, which included like variety of pastries, tea, coffee, bread, like fresh coffee and stuff every day. And like if it run out, you are welcome to make a new pot of it. And these things were like all donated like each day, so it was fresh. But although most of the food it was very unhealthy, so including the meals, and but at least they ensured everyone was fed, and that meant that you didn't have to rely on going out to look for like soup kitchens or anything like that, which it was a lot of those around too because it was situated like in the downtown area of Schenectady. And so they had a curfew at 10 p.m., which wasn't a problem for me since I had nowhere to go. Didn't know anyone up there other than my girlfriend and her children. And it was the dead of winter. It was freezing upstate. It was cold. The weather, like it's a blizzards, brick as we call it. It's like colder than in the city, in the five boroughs. It wasn't much to do in Schenectady. It tends to attract like those who enjoy the outdoors, like outdoor activities and stuff. So, but yeah, the nature there is beautiful. It's very quiet and peaceful. Most of the time I ate out. My friend would pick me up on her days off, and I would ride the bus too to familiarize myself with the area, like including the surrounding areas like Troy, Albany, and Rensselaer. And unlike New York City, upstate didn't have subways. They didn't have a subway system. So you either needed a car or a bus. But I didn't have my car, so I used the bus, and which was cool. The buses were like empty and very clean. It's totally different from New York City, which is just, an hour and a half away from Schenectady in those areas. So I didn't want to impose on my friend, considering she, worked and had her family to attend to. I didn't even have that in my mind when I was going there. I'm a big girl, I can handle my business. I was just grateful that, she gave me that bit of information, guidance with regards to job opportunities and stuff like that. And then she would come and check me whenever she could. So I didn't have any issues with the transportation. But during my first week there, um, I got a lead. I I caught a break. I received an email invitation to the hiring pools at the Department of Transportation. And after taking my friend's advice when I was in Miami, I applied online. So everything was working out good. And so it was mostly administrative and accounting roles, which I applied for, those that fit my expertise and my background. So when I arrived for the interview, the day of the interview, I was asked if I had a driver's license and about my driver's record. And so they advised me to take the bus operator pre exam and mentioned that there was a $2,000 sign on bonus. And if I passed and accepted the job and completed the CDL training on site, um, that I would be able to get this bonus immediately after, like during my training. I would get my first check. I would get that along with it. So I, um, I just, I'm sorry, something caught my attention. I needed money quickly, and to get an apartment and start scratching off the surface of some of that debt. And I felt that God was providing for me, but I kept thinking it was always just enough, never enough to pay a bill or go back and get my vehicle fixed and cover anything else I needed, you know, help with. So I just decided to go for it. I took the exam right there on the spot and passed. And although I didn't particularly enjoy driving, I drive because I have to, but not a bus. I never thought about doing it, but um, I just I I felt led to do it. So I was given a CDL book along with notes highlighting the chapters that I needed to study, so I wouldn't be all over the place or just like spending so much time trying to read the whole book. And additionally, I received a form to the DMV to obtain my CDL permit, and I was thrilled and excited about the opportunity I had. I'm feeling like now things are turning around, and everything else would like fall into place. But the next couple of days, I dedicated myself studying day and night for this CDL, you know, um, training course. And then just started out of the blue noticing like the shift in people, like that Agent Smith had followed me. He started showing up in other residents and staff. Everyone around me would embody the same spirit everywhere I go. So I started to feel recluse because I would stay in my room just afraid of what if, things start to turn sour. And it usually did. And so I just feel like when I'd face challenges, I realized God was guiding me to stay quiet, move, silent and carefully, and you know, sharing my plans, even with trusted people, can sometimes give the enemy a chance to interfere. God knows our thoughts, but the enemy only hears what we say. And this is how, the monitoring spirits come to play in our lives. Often we don't notice when we or those close to us are being used and being influenced. So, and this is another way the practitioners and the spiritualists use spells or curses to obstruct our progress. After facing many setbacks, I also realized that being more private could help protect my goals and my plans that I had. And through these challenges, God strengthened me, allowing me to use my experiences for my purpose and for His glory. And unfortunately, I had to distance myself from many people in my life. While, not everyone is bad, many are still caught up in like worldly things and worldly matters. So they can always be compromised and used, and that's not good. So now more than ever, it's important for me to exercise discernment, even with family and friends. And, I try to keep my son in check too, because he's still, baby Christian. But thank you kindly again for listening to this channel, and I welcome you back for more. Be well, and may God continue to bless you.